الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته وحياكم الله. Inshallah, today we continue one more lesson in how to prepare your returning path. So last week we learned a few things about that we should not do. We mentioned hadith where Muhammad ﷺ put two branches on top of two graves because he said that the people on those graves, the people in those graves, were getting a'udhu billah, torment or punishment because of what they used to do in dunya. One of them used to go around with the namima, using namima, carrying tales, carrying stories from home to home or from person to person, and the other one didn't use to yastatir, to cover or to clean up after bathroom. So and we talked about that, and as well one of the things we learned not to do last week was when we are alone with something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said don't do. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Muhammad spoke about those group of people that when, like, throughout the day they are in siyam, they are in salat, even they are in qiyam al-layl. But when they find themselves alone with something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said don't do, they do it. So a'udhu billah, they are promised with punishment and day of judgment as well. So we learned to be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to watch Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even when we are alone. So that to remind you what we learned as well. We learned as well that with the first thing you are accountable for and you are being reckoned or asked about is as-salat. And we made a simple math calculations, how many salat, how many prayers, if someone would live for 30 years, how many prayers they would have, and we had a sense of a number, because the hadith said if the count of the salat is not complete, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would order the angels to look at the nawafil, the extra prayers for that person, to see if they have any. If they do, they complete the fara'id, the 5 mandatory from those nawafil. So we learned in order to prepare our path for returning, first to guard our 5 prayers and to pray extra as much as we can, especially when you feel good and want to offer more. So go ahead and offer more prayers in any, like in the, not just avoiding the times that the Prophet ﷺ said don't pray in them. And these times are right after, like when the sun is rising. So right after you pray Fajr, you should not pray or engage in any prayer. Before al-Dhuhr, which is the time from before Dhuhr, about half an hour, you should not engage in any prayer. And the time after Asr, you should not engage in any prayer. But other than that, you can pray to your heart's content during the night in time of duha. You feel yourself motivated, you want to pray 2 rak'ah, you want to pray 4 rak'ah. Those extra prayers are very, very important as a credit for you to complete the credit of the actual prayers if they're missing any. So these are the 3 ideas we discussed last week in the session. Today, inshallah, one more lesson, which means from next week, I'm open for your suggestions. I have few suggestions to go on together with Surah Yusuf, but if there is a subject in your minds and you want to be the next subject after this one, you can go ahead and vote or promote or suggest on the group. If I don't see any suggestions, I will go with Surah Yusuf until I complete it, and then I complete this series, because this series continued because it started on Ramadan, and in order to finish Surah Yusuf. We can learn along with Surah Yusuf other ideas, but I want to make sure that you all agree with the ideas that I bring. So the two different few ideas that I brought, it was from ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgiveness if I had misjudgment or mischoice, but I want you as well to participate, please, to choose the next subject if you want the next one. If you want to focus in Surah Yusuf, that's as well. Okay. So what are we going to discuss today are two hadiths. I'm not using sunnah.com today because it's not working today. So I'm using Sahih al-Bukhari site. These hadiths from Sahih al-Bukhari. They don't have translation. I will go the translation little by little. You can take a screenshot, and when we have sunnah.com on and you want to compare or you want to have the reference from sunnah.com, inshallah, we can do that. So first hadith we're talking about today is this one. So the hadith عن أبي هريرة عن أبي هريرة أنه قال. Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه is the one who is narrating this hadith. So he said, it was said, قيل لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, someone called upon the messenger, يا رسول الله, يا رسول الله, O messenger of Allah. Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم was in a place that anyone at any time can call upon him, ask him questions, request things. So, Ya Rasulullah, now this person has a question. He said, من أسعد الناس بشفاعتك يوم القيامة. So, I highly recommend, like you heard it from me, I believe you're already tired of me saying that, but please have a mean to take notes. Don't depend only on your memory to attend a majlis or a class of knowledge. Please take notes. You will remember later, high chance, and you will apply it in your life and you will pass it on. So Muhammad ﷺ was asked a question. The question is, Men who أسعد الناس, the happiest person or the happiest of all people, بشفاعتك, with your shafa'a. We're going to understand what shafa'a is. يوم القيامة, on the day of judgment. So first of all, let me ask you about shafa'a. What do you know about shafa'a? I will leave you a minute to participate. Okay, I got two answers. Intercession. So what does intercession mean, my sisters? What does it mean to intercede? Yes, as a translation, shafa'a means intercession. But what is intercession? To appeal on your behalf. Ahsanti, someone appeal on your behalf, then that's someone giving shafa'a for you. Your deeds speak for you? No, we're not talking about deeds. We're talking about shafa'a. Here, the question is to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the happiest people with your shafa'a? The question is to the messenger. So the shafa'a is offered by the messenger. Then we asked, what is shafa'a? Shafa'a is when a person appeal for you. What does that mean? Let's give a scenario or a quick example to understand what shafa'a is. So imagine me and one of my sisters had disagreement. Okay? So, Ahsanti, for example. So we had a disagreement and another sister said, okay, I will try to help. So she would hear me and she will hear the other sister, and then she would think, for example, that I was mistaken. So she would say, you know what, maybe she was mistaken, maybe forgive her for that, maybe she at that moment she had something to handle, she wasn't focused, can you consider forgiveness, can you consider? So that is the appeal that I need, not because I did something right, and it was misunderstood. I did something wrong. You see? So someone did something wrong to someone else. An intercessor or the person that come in the middle, trying to appeal, trying to give positive points about that person that made something wrong to the other person, so the other person could consider forgiving them. It's like, for example, your daughter or your son did something that you said don't do. And you said, if you do that, you're not going to use your phone, or you're not going to play in your playtime for a week, let's say. So now the daughter or the son are sad. They know they did something where they shouldn't have, and they know now that they have to stay for a week without that playtime or screen time. They may consider talking to your sister. They may consider talking to their father and say, could you please talk to my mom? Explain to her that I really didn't do it, but I did it by accident. I will not do this again. So that is the shafa'ah role. We didn't finish the hadith. We are just talking about the word shafa'ah. We just started the hadith. So we're just understanding what shafa'ah is. The hadith is not finished, and we didn't talk at all about what the hadith said, more than the question that the Prophet ﷺ was asked: who is the happiest of people with your shafa'ah on the day of judgment? That is the question we read in the hadith. So we're trying to understand what shafa'ah is. My sister Fahmida said, like when a lawyer defending their client, but defending their client knowing that their client did something wrong, yes, they're interceding. But defending their client if their client did something vague or can be misunderstood, this is not shafa'ah. You see, shafa'ah means you did something wrong, and the person or whomever you did something wrong is not forgiving you. So you need an extra person, external one, to come and speak on your behalf, to soften their heart, to talk to them in order to consider forgiving you. Does that make sense? So it is not that you did something right and they're misunderstanding it. It's not like that. So we all want to be in a place that we have the shafa'ah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he guided us through his life to ways that we could have his shafa'ah. And now the person that's asked this question is saying, who's the happiest of your shafa'ah? So we are all in a situation that our good deeds maybe are not enough, that we go to Jannah without going to fire at all. May Allah protect us, all of us. We are maybe end up in a situation that we did something good and we did something not good, and that something not good deserves a punishment, and the punishment is in the fire. May Allah protect us. So we need a shafa'ah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to get us out of that. So do we understand now what shafa'ah is? Okay. Can other than the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam do shafa'ah? Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he permits, there's going to be a time that he give a permission to other prophets and messengers, to salihin, to righteous people in general, to family members to do shafa'ah for other family members that didn't do well or that are due to punishment. A'udhu billah. So primarily it's for Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and everyone is going to be needing his shafa'ah. Everyone, all the creation, and I'll tell you now in the hadith. And other prophets and messengers after that, salihin after that, any righteous person can give shafa'ah to others. and family members to their other family members that didn't do well or they did something that they deserve punishment for. So on Day of Judgment, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the sun to come 1 mile closer to people, people will be troubled, will be standing in the heat or under the heat of the sun for a while. And they will be troubled with the heat, with the sweat. It's not pleasant. It's very troubling. So they, out of that trouble, they will start running to every prophet and messenger they know. So he could ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to start the judgment, to start the hisab. Hisab hasn't started yet. It's just still before the hisab. So before the hisab, before the situation when you stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to present your deeds to you or ask you about or question what you have done, there is a situation when the sun comes closer to people and they are being very, very troubled. They run to Ibrahim alayhi salam. He refused. He said, I'm shy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I did such and such, and I can't. And he doesn't go for shafa. They go to Nuh alayhi salam. He said, I'm shy from Allah. I can't ask. They go to every prophet, messenger, and then they end up at Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They ask Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to ask Allah to start the hisab. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam prostrate under the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and start praising and praying with the most beautiful praise to Allah. And he continued to do that until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would say, Ya Muhammad, irfa ra'sak, lift your head up. Was'al tu'ta, and ask, you'll be granted. Washfa' tushaffa, and ask for or intercede, you're going to be granted the intercession for those that you're going to intercede for. So first, do we understand this before we continue the hadith? Do we understand what are we talking about so far? If any of what I just said is not clear, please ask. You're here to learn. Yes, closer to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the sun to come closer. And that mile makes the heat extra and makes it very, very troubling. Yeah. Okay, so now back to the hadith. So the man or Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked, "Man as'adu an-nasi bi shafa'atik?" So when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam now is granted to intercede for us, the man is asking, "Who is the happiest that will receive this shafa'ah?" So here is the answer. Everyone. The sun affects everyone. Everyone will be running. Astaghfirullah, hold on. Astaghfirullah, I said something I shouldn't say. Everyone will be affected by the sun, but there are groups of people that will be under the shade of Allah's throne. As Muhammad said in the hadith, on a day that there is no shade from the sun except under Allah's throne. And these are 7 categories of people Muhammad mentioned in a different hadith. So the ones that are not going to be affected by the sun are, if you belong to one of those 7 categories, you're under Allah's throne, so you don't have to worry about the sun. But if you're not from those 7, then you're going to be under the sun. I hope that is clear. So answering to the question, will the sun affect everyone, even the good doers? If the good doers, who are the 7, inshallah, I will mention, but after we finish the hadith, please. So will the sun affect everyone, including even the good doers? No, we say, if the good doers are from the 7 categories that's going to be under Allah's throne, then they're not affected. If the person is a good doer, but they're not from those 7, then they're going to be under the sun. أعوذ بالله. We know that from the hadith. Muhammad ﷺ said, 7, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them under his shade. On a day, no shade except under his throne. So if you are from the 7, so make sure that you are from the 7. Inshallah, we're going to mention them at the end. If you are from the 7, you are not under the sun. Okay, so to the answering to the question, who is the happiest with receiving your shafa'ah, O Messenger of Allah? Muhammad ﷺ said, and take note of his answer. He said, لقد ظننت يا أبا هريرة ألا يسألني عن هذا الحديث أحد أول منك. Muhammad ﷺ has very good expectations and thinking of Abu Huraira. Abu Huraira was very close to the Messenger ﷺ, taking notes, taking hadith. Most of the hadith you read, what do you read? عن أبي هريرة. عن أبي هريرة. He was always there, picking the knowledge. Sometimes he would forget the knowledge, and he would go and he would say, Messenger of Allah, I forget. And Muhammad ﷺ will help him to remember, and he did according to the hadith. He helped him with a certain act that helped him not to forget any knowledge after that. So this part of the answer, the beginning part, لقد ظننت يا أبا هريرة لا يسألني عن هذا أحد منك عن هذا الحديث أحد أول منك, means I have these expectations in you, Abu Huraira, that no one would ask me about this before you. So this is how he expects Abu Huraira to be always the first, always the best in asking questions, in collecting hadith. So, and then he completed, he continued to say, لما رأيتك من حرصك على الحديث. From what I saw, from how careful and how determined you are in collecting hadith. Then he answered, he said, أسعد الناس بشفاعتي يوم القيامة, the happiest of all people with my intercession on day of judgment, who said, لا إله إلا الله خالصا من قلبه أو نفسه. So the happiest of all people with my intercession on the day of judgment, whoever said لا إله إلا الله purely, sincerely, from his heart or from his self. So when you say La ilaha illallah and you gather all your belief, all your thought purely from your heart, sincerely, you have nothing in your heart, no job, no family, no temptation of life. You just saying La ilaha illallah sincerely, purely from your heart, you're going to be the happiest of receiving the shafa'ah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do we understand the hadith? And do you have questions? So what is it that we do? Like now to learn from the hadith, what is it to do to prepare us for that moment? What is it that we do? Can you try answer? My sisters, follow the sunnah. Where do you learn this bit? Follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Where did you learn this from? Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh. It's right. Ahsanti, Jazakallah khairan, my sister Fahmida. So my sister Fahmida had a reflection. So she's saying, this hadith give you so much hope. All what you need, it can seem one step. It can seem something simple, but all what you need is to say La ilaha illallah purely, sincerely from your heart. No God. What does La ilaha illallah mean? No God worthy of worship except Allah. You're happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your God. You're happy to offer your prayers to Him. You're happy that He is your creator. You're happy with Allah. We learned that earlier in the series. When we say رضيت بالله ربًا, the person that finds the sweetness of Iman, we learned that in Ramadan, is the person that is happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is his Rabb. Jazakallah khairan, my sister. The answer in Arabic, what do you mean? Sorry.
Just to continue reading in Arabic, I read the beginning part.
You mean in the hadith or your answer?
No, in the hadith. I was just wondering if I missed the Arabic.
Okay, I will go. Sorry, I will review the hadith one more time. If you missed anything, or other sisters, I will go back, inshallah. Okay, Jazakallah khairan. Detach from things. Ahsanti, you love more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's a good advice. Jazakallah khairan. If you attach yourself only to Him, you'll find anything else in this life is really not worthy of your sadness or your frustration over it, or your attachment to it. Jazakallah khairan. So what we're trying to learn is we're trying to take what is it to do from the hadith. There are few things Muhammad ﷺ mentioned in the hadith that can help us to what to do in order to prepare yourself for that moment on Day of Judgment. Saying La ilaha illallah purely from your heart, detaching yourself from anything other than Him. What else? Hadith is giving us so much help. My sister that mentioned follow the sunnah of the messenger. Not committing shirk, of course, ahsanti, mashallah, Atiya. Because if your heart is attached to something or to someone, then shirk will take place. If you like something so much that you don't leave it, or someone so much that you don't leave them at all, that there is something going on that's not right in your heart. You have to purge that. You have to cleanse that. Refraining or staying away from shirk. Ahsanti, jazakallahu khairan, barakallahu fiki. There is something there beautiful. You can notice. Good. Okay, I will go back to the translation so that can help you. Jazakallahu khairan, Fahmida. So, عن أبي هريرة, the hadith started from here. عن أبي هريرة. Abu Hurairah narrated that قيل, it was said, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah. Someone called the Messenger. O the Messenger of Allah. Okay, inshallah. من أسعد الناس بشفاعتك يوم القيامة. Who is the happiest of all people with your intercession on Day of Judgment? I'm reading the hadith again, inshallah. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, صلى الله عليه وسلم, I thought, O Abu Hurairah, that no one would ask me about this hadith before you or first before you, because how I saw from your determination and being careful on collecting the hadith. أسعد الناس بشفاعتي يوم القيامة, the happiest of all people with my intercession on Day of Judgment. من قال, who says, لا إله إلا الله, no God worthy of worship except Allah. خالصا, purely, sincerely, من قلبه, from his heart, أو نفسه, or himself. So this is the hadith and the translation. The hadith in Arabic, Muhammad ﷺ said, or Abu Hurairah said, Ya Rasulullah, man as'adu nasi bi shafa'atika yawm al-qiyamah. So Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, لقد ظننت يا أبا هريرة ألا يسألني عن هذا الحديث أحد أولى منك أو أول منك لما رأيت من حرصك على الحديث. أسعد الناس بشفاعتي يوم القيامة من قال لا إله إلا الله خالصا من قلبه ونفسه. So I went through the hadith in Arabic and in English. So for those of you who missed something, I hope you already have it. I have another note now from my sister Shabina. Ahsanti, determination in seeking knowledge. You see, Muhammad Sallam praised that. It's even half of his answer was that. You see, when he said to Abu Huraira, I thought no one, or I expected you to be the one who asked me about that, because you are determined for the hadith, to collect the hadith. So if you offer determination for any knowledge, memorizing Quran, understanding hadith, make yourself determined to something that you don't leave every single day. An hour or half an hour or 15 minutes that you spend on learning one thing, on memorizing one line, one word. Ahsanti, jazakallah khairan. And maybe this is what my sister Romana meant when she said, following the sunnah of the messenger. Is this what you mean? To be determined to collect the hadith, understanding the hadith, learning it. So when you do that, when you say La ilaha illallah purely from your heart, you are going to be the happiest of all people receiving the shafa'ah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Refrain from loving any other but Allah, subhanallah. Ahsanti, jazakallahu khairan. Okay, so the question I received earlier about who is going to be in the shade or not, and then I mentioned another hadith that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned seven people. So, or let's say 7 categories of people that you could be one of them in order to be under Allah's shade. Try to be one of them. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith, and the hadith is muttafaqun alayh. I cannot put it on the screen as I told you today. Sunnah.com is not working, so I'm reading it from the hadith itself, from a different source. But it's muttafaqun alayh, riwayat Bukhari and Muslim. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, seven, yudhilluhum Allahu fi dhillihi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shade them or put them under shade, in his shade, on a day that no other shade except his. And then he started listing them. He said, Imamun Adil, a fair imam. Imam can mean a leader, like a leader in a prayer, or can be a leader as a leader of a nation. I think one of my sisters already listed them. Oh, Jazakallah khair. And you can share it, my sister. You can share it with everyone. I'm just reading them from the hadith. But may Allah bless you. You can share it with everyone. Barakallah fiki. Okay, so this is the list. Imamun Adil, a fair or a just leader. Leader can mean, or imam can mean, a fair leader in the prayer, like the one who leads the salat, or someone in a ruling position, in a place that would take decisions, will rule a nation or a city or a country. So if any of us like that, then you have a place under Allah's throne. That's the first category. Second, shabun nasha'a fi ibadatillah, a young man or a youth that grow up in worshipping of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah's worship. So since the start, they hear Quran, they learn hadith, they know who al-Bukhari is. Amazing when nowadays in 2022, you find a little boy, for example, 5, 6, 7 years old, and he tell you Al-Imam al-Bukhari said. He knows who al-Bukhari is. He knows who a Muslim is, which means the characters, the stories that they hear is stories to keep them close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They know who Umar is, who the Prophet is, who Adam alayhi salam is, who Nuh is. So if you manage to make environment for a little boy or a little girl to grow up in ibadatillah, you're giving them a reason to be under Allah's throne, under his shade. If you any of us that have a child this age, you have this chance. You can do that. Yes, you can say it's complicated and it's hard and it's the social media and YouTube. You are the censor. You can put whatever you like. So why don't you put what makes them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That doesn't mean close the world off, but it means make those first 5 years of their life rich with Quran, Hadith, stories as much as you can. So that's the second category. Third, رجل قلبه معلق بالمساجد, a man that his heart attached to mosques. He wants to be in the masjid. He wants to pray in the masjid. Here, I believe it's only men because Salatul Jama'ah is mandatory on men. So if a man, again, but if you can be the mom, if you are not the man, because you are the lady, then you can be the mom of that man to encourage him to go until he loves attending the masjid. There is a prayer in the masjid. He goes to the Saff al-Awwal. He goes after hearing the adhan right away. So again, you can provide that. You can give your child a chance to be among the seven. Next one, rajulan, two men. Here can be two men or two women. Tahabba fillahi. They love each other for Allah's sake. When they meet each other, they meet for his sake. And when they leave each other, they leave for his sake. اجتمعا عليه وتفرقا عليه. They love each other. They love the fact that they remember Quran together, or they mention Hadith together, or they talk about him together. They love him, both of them. So they're going to be under his throne, both of them. A man that a woman called him, and she was with like a certain authority or power, and she's beauty. She called him for fahisha. She called him to do something wrong. But he said, Inni akhafullah. Indeed, I fear Allah. So he didn't go for that. He didn't submit for that, for her authority or for her beauty. Can be the opposite, a woman in an opposite place. It could, but we don't have a proof for that. But we don't have a hadith against that either. So it can be a man or a woman in that place. A man or a woman, of course, that made a sadaqah and he hid the sadaqah. So they hid the sadaqah to the point that his left doesn't see what his right gave. حتى لا تعلم شماله ما تنفق يمينه. A man or a woman that when they give a sadaqah, when they give a charity, here the translation says selfless, but it is not about selfless, it's about hiding it. No one has to know about it. Even your left hand won't see your right hand giving it. It's amazing detail. So that's already category number 6. The last one, a man or a woman, of course, mention Allah alone. No one is around. They mention Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So their eyes teared up. So they can be as well under Allah's throne. So you see, some categories maybe doesn't fit you, but you have a chance to be in other categories. So inshallah, we be under Allah's shade on a day, no shade but his. So I hope like with this we completed understanding this hadith, the hadith related to shafa'ah, the happiest of having the shafa'ah. Who are the people that are going to be under Allah's shade? What do you do in order to be the happiest? So try to be one of the first, of course, try to be one of the 7. So you're under Allah's shade. And the second, try to be determined to knowledge. Try to say La ilaha illallah purely, sincerely from your heart. Any questions, my sisters? Today is the last note about this topic. Inshallah, next week, we're starting a new one based on your votes or suggestions on the group. If no votes were given, then I will just go ahead with Surah Yusuf until I finish it, inshallah. The next hadith today is the coming hadith. Muhammad ﷺ said, they're both hadiths, but they're talking about the same thing. So I will read for you the first one, both in Bukhari. All the hadith, these 3 hadith I have for you today is on Sahih al-Bukhari. So the first one said that Sahl ibn Sa'd radiallahu anhu narrated from the Prophet ﷺ. He said, لا يدخلن من أمتي 70,000 و700,000 أو 700,000 لا يدخل أولهم حتى يدخل آخرهم وجوههم على صورة القمر ليلة البدر. So the Sahabi Sahl ibn Sa'd narrated that the Messenger ﷺ said 70,000 or 700,000. Take care of the number. I will repeat again. 70,000 or, this is the word أو or, 700,000 min ummati, from my nation. They are going in. We understand they're going in Jannah. And they are in a group in a way that only when the first of them enter, the last of them enter at the same time. So they're not waiting in line. So imagine, for example, they are in a circle fashion, in a holding line, but they are holding hands, for example, but they are in a circle fashion. So when the first go in, the last as well go in. This is how Muhammad ﷺ said. They لا يدخل أولهم حتى يدخل آخرهم. The first one to enter until the last enter. Those 700 or 700,000 or 70,000. وجوههم, their faces, is on a picture of the moon on Laylatul Badr, like when the moon is full. So they are bright faces. They have bright faces. They are 70,000 or 700,000. What's so special about this group is the other hadith that explains it. So Muhammad ﷺ said, عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه narrated the other hadith. He said, يدخل الجنة من أمتي 70,000. 70,000 of my nation go to Jannah بغير حساب, without any reckoning. And then he said, what is it that they do to be eligible to go to Jannah without any reckoning? So they don't have to stand for presenting the deed. They don't have to stand to be asked about their deeds. Nothing of that is required for them. So in the first hadith, we know there could be 70,000 or 700,000, according to the hadith. They all go in one go, the first and the last, so no waiting. And they have bright faces. That's what we know from the first one. From the second hadith, Muhammad ﷺ gave us more details about what they do. So he said, هم الذين لا يسترقون, those that don't seek the ruqya. Don't seek the ruqya. I will go back to this in a second. ولا يتطيرون, and they don't perform or practice superstition. وعلى ربهم يتوكلون, and they only trust or rely or depend on their Lord. This is the 3 things they do. In other hadith, Muhammad ﷺ mentioned a fourth thing, but we're going to study today those 3. So لا يسترقون. So what is ruqya? Ruqya is when you feel ill, someone will come, or even yourself will start reciting ayat, like from Surah Al-Fatiha, from Surah Al-Falaq, from Surah Al-Nas, certain du'as to help you heal, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recommended that, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam recommended that. There is power in the Quran, and there is power in the du'as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam recommended us to say, and this is called ruqya. So those 70,000 that they go to Jannah without a hisab, they don't ask for it. What does that mean? They figured that if you ask for it, you have a certain, even a slight attachment to the person that's going to perform it on you. So you think maybe you're not eligible because you're sick, but they are eligible. Exactly. You can recite of yourself. You're recommended to recite on yourself. And if you are offered it, you accept it. It's fine. So if I come and say, can I recite on you? You're feeling unwell. Can I recite on you ruqya? It's okay. You don't turn me down, but you don't ask me on purpose, Nisreen, come and recite on me. In that request, in that asking, you think that the person you're asking have powers maybe that you don't have. And none of us have any extra powers. It's just the powers in the Quran itself. So any of us can do it. So they don't seek it. They don't request it. They don't ask for it. They can do it on themselves. They can do it on others. They can accept it if it was offered to them. So they do. This is the first thing they don't do. لا يتطيرون, superstition. And why does it sound like bird? Because Arabs relate tatayyur or superstition to birds, because this is how they used to do in Jahiliyyah before Islam. They would go to certain people, fortune tellers or something like that, and they would say, I want to travel to this place this week. Should I go or not? Is it a good or not idea? So that fortune teller will send the bird. It can be a crow, it can be any bird. So if the bird fly north, he will say, yes, it's a good idea, you can go. If the bird flies south, he will say, no, don't go. So they used to do that before Islam, and that's why the word yatatayyarun, superstition, relates to birds or tayr. So people that are going to Jannah without hisab, the 70,000 or 700,000, they don't do tatayyur. They don't see a color in the sky and say, oh, today is such and such day. They don't see a person coming to their doorstep, or the first person they open the door to, or the first picture they open the book for, and they say, oh, I'm having this today because I saw this first. That is called superstition. So the picture that you saw or the person that you saw have nothing to do with what's going to happen to you throughout your day. It's qadarullah that you saw them first, but that doesn't have any effect on your on what's coming up on your day. It's Allah's decree what's coming up in your day, not because of you saw them or not. Another tatayyur can take place by wearing certain things or not wearing them. Am I hearing a mic?
Sorry, Stada. I think I wrote the wrong word down. I wrote witchcraft. Was it superstition, not witchcraft?
It's superstition. It's not witchcraft.
Oh, okay.
وإياكم. Okay, so it can as well appear in a form of not wearing or wearing something. So as they say, when I wear this dress, when I go, or when I wear this scarf, when I go to an interview, it's good for me. When I don't wear it, or someone borrow it and they had to go to the interview, say, I know I'm not going to do well because I don't have that scarf on, for example, astaghfirullah. The scarf has nothing to do with what's going to happen to you. The ring will not have anything to do with what's going to happen to you that day. That is called tatayyur. The 70,000 that go to Jannah without any hisab, they don't do that. What is it that they do then? عَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. Exactly, like they think this is a good luck or not. So if the good luck, they do it. If not good luck, they don't do it. Exactly. So like my sister Romana said, what is it that they do? They depend on Allah alone. They trust in Allah alone. Someone said, today for you is not a good day. Someone said that to you in the beginning of the day. You ask why. Said, okay, because you didn't wear what I told you yesterday. If you wear that dress, you're going to have a good day. You're saying, listen, I trust Allah alone. Why I have that dress on or not, I trust Allah. I depend on Him. While I have that pen with me or not, I can do fine, inshallah, with Allah's will. They depend, they trust Allah. And you have no reason not to trust Him. Can you give me a few reasons? Why would you trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You have no reason not to do otherwise, but give me reasons why would you? When I say trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have no reason not to do otherwise. Okay, He's in control of everything. Okay, Jazakallah khair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that if you can mention a hadith or a verse that can help us to remember. So He is the creator and He knows everything. He is al-alimu, He is al-khaliqu. He is the only one that knows what's coming because His knowledge is perfect and complete. So He's the only one that knows what's going to happen. Not me, not you, not the bird, or the skirt, or the scarf. Ni'am al-wakil. Ni'am al-wakil is the best one you rely on or trust. Ahsanti. Jazakallah khairan. But if you go a little bit deeper in your life, you say, He is the one that protected me, that granted me a home when I was little. Imagine, remember yourself, like now we are different in ages. Some of us are 30, some of us are 50, some of us are 20. He is my Rabb. He is the one that made me, created me. I wouldn't be here if He didn't decide that. He's the one that gave me those arms, this skin color, this heart that is beating, that tongue that is speaking. I didn't do it. I didn't give it for myself. I can't. No one can give it for me or for themselves. Right? When I was 1 day of age, where was I? He gave me a home, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gave me people that loved me. When I was 5 years, where was I? So when you remember how kind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is for you, how did you manage to come to this to today's lesson? It is not just because you click the link. There is a history there. There are years, right? Ahsanti. He looked after us. He looked after me in exactly since even we are in our mother's wombs. And He's continued to do that. So I trust Him. I know that. You see, when you have that confidence, that crystal clear certainty, yaqeen, I trust Him. I trust Allah. You will never be let down because He is ni'am al-wakil, like my other sister said. He is the best one that you can trust. What happened when we get into trouble? We say, astaghfirullah, qaddarallah ma sha'a fa'al, la ilaha illallah, but then we want to call someone to consult. There's nothing wrong with that. But try first, before calling someone, to relate your case to ni'am al-wakil, to the one you trust the most. He is the one that you trust, and you should. So this is what they do. They don't do yastarquna, they don't do yatatayyaruna, but they do ala rabbihim yatawakkalun. Okay, questions? We finished today's hadith, and hopefully with the hadiths before and with the previous weeks, you managed to have a list of things that you can do. So your returning path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a happy, determined, clear path. You know what to say every day. You know what to do. Why are you doing what you're doing? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all a happy returning path to him, and accept us all among as-salihin, Allahumma ameen, and admit us to Jannat al-Na'im, Allahumma ameen, and protect us from punishment of hellfire, Allahumma ameen. Okay, so now if no questions, I'll move on to Surah Yusuf, inshallah, to continue the conversation Yusuf alayhi salam was having with the two young men that came, or that narrated the dreams for him. Should I move on? Okay. All right, so we are in verse 38. We started talking. Yusuf alayhi salam took this as opportunity to tell them who they are, who he is, or who he was, what is it that he follows, why he has the knowledge that he has. We looked at that in verse 37 when he said, "This is what my Lord taught me. I have left millata qawmin, the practice of people that they don't believe in Allah and they deny al-akhirah." And then he started clearing what is it that he follows. You see, exactly we saw in the hadith, when you state what you don't do, you have to state what you do. So he said, I followed the practice of my fathers. And then he said, Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yaqub. ما كان لنا, it wasn't for us to associate anything with Allah. We spoke about the shirk last time. We spoke about the shirk al-akbar, al-shirk al-asghar, al-shirk al-khafi. And then he said, this is from the bounty of Allah, the grace of Allah upon us. You know, you now sitting, believing only in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not believing in a ring or a stone or a scarf or a tree, or swearing or taking an oath by Kaaba, or taking an oath by the house, or taking an oath by somebody's life or death. This is a great blessing from him subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. So you say alhamdulillah for that. This is what Yusuf alayhi salam is saying. That is from the bounty or the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us and upon people, because if they are the prophets and they don't associate anyone, they call people for the same path. So this is a great blessing on people too. However, most people, they don't do shukr. What is shakara? What does shakara mean? Most people being grateful, saying thank you, shukran. We say shukran in Arabic. A shukr is expression of gratitude, like you're saying. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from one of his most beautiful names, Ash-Shakur. Not only the one that you thank, is the one that thanks you for offering the best of you. So, أكثر الناس لا يشكرون. So we don't want to be with this majority that they don't practice thanking or shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in your notes, I'm praying that you have something that you're taking notes in. So please now include in your notes things that I say thank you to Allah for. And mention 3 things only. If you can, of course, write more. I will give you a minute or 2 if you want. Mention in your notes, I'm grateful, I'm thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I have, and mention 3 at least. And just tell me done when you're done. Yeah, this verse we stopped at min shay'in last week, so we're now just finishing it until the end. So we started verse 38, we stopped at shay, and from today it's from dhalika. Yeah. Okay, one more minute. We're just writing things that we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have, or that we are. Okay, so practice of shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gratitude, is very, very important. It even helps you to have not only good that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thanks this from you, but it's good for your health, for your memory, for your brain. It helps you to have good memory because you still remember the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on you. Okay, and then Yusuf alayhi salam continued. Now we have verse 39. Ya sahibay sijni. So now he started calling them something, or call upon them using something. Sahib. Sahib is a companion. So they are all in one place, which is a sijin. A sijin is the prison. So he's saying, Ya sahibay sijni. All two companions of the prison. So two companions of him, but him as well is in the prison, so they are all companions in the same place, which is very friendly to call upon them if he wants their attention. أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ. Now he's asking the question. Quran, it's rarely that you read through one full page of the Quran without finding questions. It's very, very rare. So here, Yusuf alayhi salam is asking them as well. Are more Rabb. You see, arbab is jamma of the word Rabb. Rabb and Rabb and Rabb and Rabb are called arbab. The singular of arbab is Rabb. So he's saying, do you have many separated Rabb, like arbab, many gods, many lords, better, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-wahid al-qahar, the only one, the one that has the supreme power, the one that no one can defeat, no one even can battle. No one would say, today I'm going to compete, astaghfirullah, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have no chance of even suggesting that. So he's asking them this question. You go to so many separated Rabb, or Allah. And the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already suggests that he's the only one. He's the one that you love. He's the one that you worship. Al-Wahid al-Qahar. So these are three of his most beautiful names. Wahidun, he's the only one that's worthy of worship. And Al-Qahar, he is the one that has the complete power that no one can defeat. And then he continues. مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِهِ. You only worship other than him. Asma'un, just names. They are not doing anything. They don't have any powers. They are names. Asma'un. سميتموها. You named it. You made them up. أنتم وآباؤكم. You and your fathers. ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't send any sultan, any authority, any proof to prove those names. So here he's continuing to talk about the arbab, the many Rabbs, and he's saying these arbab to you, these gods or lords to you, are just what? Names. You call the names, and you invented the names, you made it up, and you devote yourself to it, which is not logical. So he's calling them now to logic. You call them, you worship them, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't reveal any authority or any proof with it. Sultan means authority or a proof. And then he said, إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. The ruling, the judgment, is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he told them now what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that has the ruling ordered. Look here. If you want to come back to it, it's really powerful. Amara alla ta'budu illa iyyahu. He ordered that you don't worship any except him. So when you say, I refrain from shirk, I tell you, why are you doing that? You say, Allah ordered me. He ordered that. He said, don't worship other than me. Don't commit shirk, or don't claim gods or call gods other than me. He said that. So if I listen to him, I am always in the right, in the light, in the bright side. Amara, he ordered not to worship any but him. And then he said, Yusuf alayhi salam, to that, ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. That is the deen al-qayyim. So al-qayyim can take few meanings in Arabic if you want to take note. So al-qayyim can mean full of value, invaluable, and can mean what sets you up right or straight. So that is the deen that is invaluable, the invaluable deen, the invaluable path. You see, that is the path only. Amara alla ta'budu illa iyyahu. Remember in the hadith that we learned in the beginning of the class, how can you be the happiest of the Prophet's shafa'a? What do? You say, La ilaha illallah from your heart, which means simply to follow that order. He ordered that you don't worship other than him. That is the invaluable deen. That is the deen that is upright. However, again, he said, most people don't know. They don't know that. They don't know when they carry in themselves, La ilaha illallah, what are they carrying? They don't understand. They don't know the value of the invaluable that they're carrying. You see? Calling or saying La ilaha illallah means you're not devoting, you're not happy with anyone except him. Carrying that make you from inside, make you shine, make you bright. You can be the happiest of receiving the shafa'a of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So always attached to saying La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. You say it in your prayer, you say it after the adhan, and you say it occasionally whenever you want. So Musa alayhi salam, this is a separate story, but to show you how following this order of Allah's amara alla ta'budu illa, what is the value you're carrying with that? So Musa alayhi salam, because he was kalimullah, he used to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. Once he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a special dhikr only for him, like he want Allah to teach him something he only can say. He is in a very close place to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He speaks to him directly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya Musa, qul la ilaha illallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa to say, La ilaha illallah. So Musa alayhi salam said, but everyone's saying that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if as-samawatu al-ard, heavens and earth, are in one scale of the weight, and the La ilaha illallah is in the other one, the La ilaha illallah will be heavier than the heavens and the earth. See how much is in that. So this is how he said, Yusuf alayhi salam, majority of people, most people, they don't know. So don't be among those they don't know. Reach the value inside the La ilaha illallah that you're saying every single day. So reading verses 38, 39, and 40, we learned few things. Majority of people not necessarily doing what's right. Can you see that with me? In verse 38, Yusuf alayhi salam said, most people don't give thanks. In verse 40, he said, most people don't know. Sometimes we think of majority and we say majority does this, as I have to do it too. So the surah and the verses are teaching us not to follow necessarily the majority. Do you see that with me? Do you have a question about it? Okay. In verse 41, Yusuf alayhi salam gave them to Jannah, to the Prophet's Shafa'ah, to be the happiest of the Prophet's Shafa'ah, to ad-din al-qayyim, the invaluable deen, is La ilaha illallah. And it's obeying the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. Ya sahibai sijni, all friends or both friends or fellows of a sijn, of the prison. Then he interpreted, he gave them the meaning. You see, when he gave them the meaning, after he made that clarification, who he is, who he's come from, what is it that he follows, why is he following what he follows, and then he gave them the meaning. He said, أما أحدكما, one of you, we're almost done inshallah, أما أحدكما فيسقي ربه خمرا, he will give Rabbahu, his Lord. You see, when he said you have arbab, is because it was very famous that everyone is called Rabbi, his Lord. So yasqi Rabbahu khamran, he gave wine to his Rabb, to his Lord or to his king. So one of them will work as a saqi. They call them saqi al-khamr. So they're always a man that is responsible for the wine and the cups, and he is the one that serves the wine. So he's going to have that job. وَأَمَّا الْآخَرُ, that saw in the dream that there are birds eating from his head, he said, فَيُصْلَبُ فَتَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْ رَأْسِهِ. He saw himself as having bread on his head and birds eating from it. So he said he's going to be crucified. So he was sentenced to death, and he's going to be crucified, and birds are going to eat off his head. And then he said, قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ. The matter that you came to تستفتيان, to ask me for fatwa about it, is already قُضِيَ. قُضِيَ means already decreed, already decided. But as well, قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ, related to dreams, we have a little bit more to reflect about, inshallah. We're going to learn about manners of the dreams and others in the next class. جزاكم الله خيرا for joining me today. بارك الله فيكم. اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل. Have a good week inshallah. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.